I'm 68 years old, and 18 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. My husband Robert had passed 3 years earlier after a battle with Parkinson's, and I'd made peace with that loss. I had our home in Redmond, the one we'd bought in 1992 for $180,000 and watched appreciate to nearly $900,000. I had my garden, my book club, my Tuesday morning yoga class with the other widows at the community center. I had my son David and his wife Vanessa, who called every Sunday. I had my daughter Jessica, who'd moved to Portland for work but visited when she could. I thought I'd built a safe, quiet life for my remaining years. I was wrong about everything. It started innocently enough, the way these things always do. David and Vanessa came over for dinner on a Saturday in March. It was one of those perfect Pacific Northwest spring evenings, the kind where the rain finally stops and everything smells like fresh cedar and wet earth. I'd made Robert's favorite pot roast, even though he wasn't there to eat it. Old habits. Vanessa was unusually chatty that night. She's an estate planning attorney, always has been the smart one in the family, sharp as a tack, Robert used to say. She'd helped us with our wills years ago, refused to take payment because family doesn't charge family. I'd always appreciated that about her. "Helen," she said, pushing her wineglass aside and leaning forward with that serious expression she gets, "David and I have been talking, and we're worried about you." I set down my fork. "Worried? About what?" "About the house. About what happens if something happens to you." She reached across and patted my hand. "You're not getting any younger, and with property values the way they are, the estate taxes alone could force a sale. Jessica would get half, but she lives in Oregon. She'd probably want to sell anyway. The whole thing could turn into a nightmare." David nodded along, not quite meeting my eyes. That should have been my first warning sign. My son has always been terrible at confrontation, always looked away when he was uncomfortable. Even as a boy, when he broke my mother's vase playing ball in the house, he'd stared at his shoes while confessing. "I have a will," I said. "You helped us with it, remember?" "I know, but there are better ways to structure things, more tax efficient." Vanessa pulled out her phone and started scrolling. "If we transfer the deed to David now, with you retaining a life estate, you get to live here as long as you want, but legally, it's his. No probate, minimal taxes. It's what all my clients do." "I don't know," I said slowly. "This is my house. Robert and I bought it together. And it'll stay your house," Vanessa assured me. "You'll live here until you don't want to anymore. But on paper, it makes everything cleaner. Simpler. Don't you want things to be simple for your kids?" I looked at David. He finally met my gaze and smiled. "It's just paperwork, Mom. You know Vanessa knows what she's doing. She does this stuff every day." I should have said no. Jessica's voice echoed in my head from a conversation we'd had months earlier, after she'd met Vanessa's mother at Thanksgiving. "Mom, I don't know how to say this, but Vanessa's family is kind of intense about money." Her dad asked me how much I made in my first 5 minutes talking to him. I'd laughed it off then. Vanessa had always been good to us. But sitting there, with both of them looking at me with such concern, such care, I felt silly for hesitating. This was my son, my daughter-in-law who'd given me 2 beautiful grandchildren, people who called me every Sunday without fail. "Okay," I heard myself say. "If you think it's best." Vanessa had the papers ready the following week. She came by on a Tuesday afternoon with a folder full of documents. I remember it was raining again, the way it does in Seattle, that persistent drizzle that gets into everything. She set them out on my kitchen table, the same table where I'd signed my will 15 years earlier with Robert's hand warm in mine. "Just need your signature here, here, and here," Vanessa said, flipping pages and pointing. "And we'll need it notarized, but I brought a notary from our office. She's waiting in the car." The papers were dense with legal language. I squinted at them, trying to make sense of the whereas and heretofore. "Can you explain what this part means?" "It's standard boilerplate," Vanessa said, her voice kind but firm. "Estate planning language. Honestly, it would take an hour to go through every clause, and it all says the same thing. David gets the house when you pass. You live here until then. Everyone saves on taxes. That's it." I signed. The notary came in, witnessed, stamped everything with her official seal. They were gone within 20 minutes. I remember standing at the window, watching Vanessa's Mercedes pull away, and feeling a small knot of anxiety in my stomach that I couldn't quite name. I called Jessica that evening. "Your brother and Vanessa helped me with some estate planning today." "What kind of estate planning?" Her voice sharpened immediately. "Jessica's a financial analyst, works for some tech company I can never remember the name of. She inherited Robert's suspicious nature. They transferred the house to David's name, to avoid taxes later." Silence. Then, "Mom, you did what?" "It's fine, honey. I still get to live here." Vanessa explained everything. "She's a lawyer. She knows what she's doing." "Mom, please tell me you had your own lawyer look at this." "Why would I need my own lawyer? Vanessa is family." Jessica sighed, long and heavy. "Mom, I love you, but sometimes you're too trusting. Will you at least send me copies of what you signed?" "I don't have copies." Vanessa took them to file. Another silence. Okay. Just be careful, Mom. If anything feels weird, call me immediately." "Promise?" "I promise. But you're worrying over nothing." I wish I'd listened to her. For 7 months, everything seemed fine. Better than fine, actually. David and Vanessa came over more often, sometimes twice a week. They brought the grandkids. We had barbecues in the backyard, the one Robert had planted with Japanese maples that turned brilliant red in fall. Vanessa even helped me set up a new smartphone when mine died, spent a whole afternoon teaching me how to use it. I felt foolish for ever doubting her. Then came October. David called on a Tuesday morning, unusual because he never called during work hours. His voice sounded strained, artificial. "Hey, Mom, can Vanessa and I come by tonight? We need to talk to you about something." That knot in my stomach returned, tighter this time. "Is everything okay?" Yeah, everything's fine. Just some things we need to discuss." They showed up at 7, both still in work clothes. David kept tugging at his tie like it was strangling him. Vanessa carried a leather portfolio that she set on the coffee table with a soft thud. "Helen, we have some difficult news," Vanessa began. She didn't sit down. "David's company is downsizing. He's losing his job at the end of the month." I gasped, reaching for my son's hand. "David, honey, I'm so sorry, but you'll find something else. You're talented. We need to sell the house." Vanessa cut in. The room tilted. "What?" "We've run the numbers, and with David's severance and our savings, we can weather this, but we need liquid capital. The house is our biggest asset. We can get at least $850,000 for it in this market, probably more." I stood up, my legs shaky. "This is my house. You said I could live here as long as I wanted." "And you can," Vanessa said smoothly. "We'll help you find a nice apartment. Maybe one of those senior living places, where you don't have to worry about maintenance. This house is too big for you anyway, Helen. All these stairs. What if you fall?" "I'm not moving. This is my home. Robert and I raised our children here." David finally spoke, still not looking at me. "Mom, it's not technically your house anymore, remember?" We transferred the deed. The room went cold. "David, look at me." He did, finally, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Fear, maybe. Or shame. Or both. "You're kicking me out of my own home?" "We're not kicking you out," Vanessa said. "We're just explaining the reality of the situation. The house is in David's name. We have every legal right to sell it. We can do this the easy way, with you cooperating and getting first pick of where you want to move, or we can do it the hard way. But it's happening either way." I looked at my son, waiting for him to say something, to stand up for me, to tell his wife she was being cruel. He said nothing. Just stood there, pulling at his tie. "Get out!" I whispered. "Helen, be reasonable. Get out of my house." They left. I heard Vanessa's Mercedes start up, drive away. I stood in my living room, the same living room where we'd celebrated 25 Christmases, where Robert had taught the kids to play chess, where I'd hosted my book club for 15 years, and I couldn't breathe. I called Jessica. She answered on the first ring. "Mom?" I couldn't speak. I was sobbing too hard. "Mom, what happened? Talk to me." I told her everything. She was silent for a long moment, then said very quietly, I'm getting in the car right now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Don't sign anything, don't agree to anything, don't talk to them. Do you understand? They're going to take my house, Jessica. We'll see about that. I'm coming. She made it in 2.5 hours. Must have driven 90 the whole way. She found me still sitting on the couch, Kleenex scattered around me like snow. She held me while I cried, then made tea the way Robert used to, strong and sweet. Tell me exactly what you signed, she said. I don't know. Vanessa had all these papers. I trusted her. Jessica's jaw tightened. Okay. Tomorrow morning, we're going to a lawyer. A real one. Not family. And we're going to fight this. But fighting it proved harder than either of us imagined. The lawyer Jessica found, a woman named Patricia Chen with gray streaks in her hair and kind eyes, reviewed the situation and shook her head. The deed transfer is legal, she said. Your daughter-in-law did everything by the book. The house is in your son's name. Unless there was fraud or coercion involved, and we can prove it, there's not much we can do. She tricked my mother, Jessica said. She used technical legal language your mother didn't understand, but that's not the same as fraud in the eyes of the law. I'm sorry. I really am. I felt something break inside me. So that's it? I just lose my home? Patricia hesitated. There might be one angle. You said you retained a life estate? I don't know. Vanessa said I could live there as long as I wanted. If that's in writing, it might give us leverage, but I'd need to see the actual documents. I didn't have them. Vanessa had taken everything. The eviction notice came 2 weeks later, delivered by a process server who wouldn't meet my eyes. 30 days to vacate. I stood in my driveway, holding the papers, and watched my neighbor's missus, Patterson, peek through her curtains. By evening, everyone on the street knew. I could feel their pity like a physical weight. David called once during those 30 days. Mom, please, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Vanessa found a great assisted living place in Bellevue. It has activities, meal service, everything. You'd love it. I'd love my home, I said. The one you're stealing from me. I'm not stealing anything. This is legal. The lawyer explained it to you. How did you become this person, David? Your father would be ashamed. He hung up. We didn't speak again. Jessica begged me to come stay with her in Portland, just temporarily, until we figure something out. But her apartment was a 1-bedroom. Barely big enough for her. I couldn't impose like that. Instead, I packed what I could fit in my car and drove to a motel off Highway 99, the kind with weekly rates and no questions asked. I was 68 years old, living in a motel room that smelled like cigarette smoke and despair, watching my savings dwindle. The house sold in 3 weeks. $920,000. David and Vanessa bought a bigger place in Bellevue, posted pictures on Facebook. I stopped logging in after I saw Vanessa's mother congratulating them on their wise investment. The worst part was the doubt. Jessica was convinced Vanessa had manipulated me, but had she? Maybe I really was getting senile. Maybe I had agreed to more than I remembered. I started second-guessing everything. Had I turned off the stove? Had I locked my car? Was I losing my mind along with my home? I saw Dr. Martinez, my doctor of 20 years, asked him to test me for dementia. He looked at me with such sadness. Helen, your cognition is fine. You're depressed, which is understandable, but you're not senile. Then why did I sign my house away? Because you trusted your family. That's not senility, that's heartbreak. I cried in his office. He prescribed antidepressants. I didn't fill the prescription. 3 months into living at the motel, I got a call from Vanessa. Her voice was clipped, professional. Helen, we need you to sign some additional paperwork. Tax documents related to the sale. Can you meet me at the house tomorrow? It's not my house anymore. Fine. The property. Can you meet me there at 2? I almost said no, but something in me needed to see it one more time, to walk through those rooms and say goodbye properly. I said yes. The new owners hadn't moved in yet. The house stood empty, echoing. Vanessa was waiting on the porch with her portfolio. She had me sign papers on the hood of her car, didn't even invite me inside. I signed without reading them. What did it matter anymore? After she left, I used the spare key I'd kept, the one they hadn't thought to ask for. I walked through every room, the kitchen where I'd taught Jessica to bake, The living room where Robert and I had danced on New Year's Eve. The master bedroom where we'd comforted each other through his diagnosis, his decline, his death. I ended up in the basement, Robert's workshop. He'd spent hours down there, building bookshelves and fixing broken things. The new owners hadn't touched it yet. His tools still hung on pegboards, organized by size. His smell still lingered, Old Spice and sawdust. I sat on his workbench and wept. That's when I noticed it. The corner of a photo album sticking out from behind the pegboard. Strange. I pulled it out. Dust showering down. Inside were pictures I'd never seen before. Robert as a young man, before I knew him. Robert with his parents. Robert in his Navy uniform. And tucked in the back, an envelope with my name on it. My hands shook as I opened it. Robert's handwriting, unmistakable even after 3 years. "My dearest Helen," it began. "If you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've come down to the workshop looking for me one last time. I knew you would. You always came looking when you needed me." Tears blurred the words. I had to stop, breathe, start again. "I need to tell you about something I did. Something I never mentioned because I didn't want you to worry, and I hoped you'd never need to know. But I needed to protect you, just in case." My heart pounded. 5 years ago, I updated our will without telling you. I added a codicil, a special provision. I saw how Vanessa looked at this house, Helen. The way she'd walk through rooms and I'd catch her calculating values in her head. The way she'd mention appreciation and equity at family dinners. I didn't like it. I didn't trust it. The codicil states this: "If anyone, including our children, tries to take possession of this house while you're alive and without your explicit, informed consent, verified by an independent attorney, the entire estate reverts to a trust I established. The trust's beneficiary is you, and only you, until your death. Then it goes to charity, not to our children, to charity." I also created a safety deposit box at Wells Fargo, branch on 156th Avenue, box number 2847. The key is taped under the bottom drawer of my workbench, right side. In that box, you'll find copies of the codicil, notarized and filed with the court. You'll also find something else: documentation of every conversation I had with my lawyer about this, including my explicit concerns about Vanessa. I hope you never read this. I hope our kids treat you with the love and respect you deserve. But if they don't, if the worst happens, you fight them, Helen. You fight them with everything in this box. You hear me? You don't give up. You don't let them win. I love you. I've always loved you. I'll be loving you still, wherever I am. Forever yours, Robert. I dropped to my knees and pulled out the drawer. The key was there, exactly where he said, attached with yellowed tape. The next morning, Jessica drove up from Portland again. We went to the bank together, presented the key. The box was full, copies of documents, notarized and official, letters from Robert to his attorney, dated over a 5-year period, expressing his concerns, proof that he'd filed the codicil with the King County Superior Court, and at the bottom, a flash drive labeled insurance. Jessica plugged it into her laptop in the bank's privacy room. Video files. Robert, sitting in his workshop, looking gaunt from the Parkinson's but clear-eyed and determined. "This is a video testament," he said to the camera. "My name is Robert Morrison. I am of sound mind, though my body is failing. I am making this video to explain my intentions regarding my estate, specifically regarding our family home at 15847 Cedar Lane, Redmond, Washington." He laid it all out. His concerns about Vanessa, his love for me, his fear that I'd be vulnerable after he died, his determination to protect me. If my son David, or anyone else, attempts to remove my wife Helen from our home against her will, I want it known that this was never my intention. The house is Helen's, for as long as she lives. If this codicil needs to be enforced, I want it enforced fully. I watched my dead husband fight for me from beyond the grave, and I finally stopped doubting myself. Patricia Chen smiled when we showed her everything. Actually smiled. This is airtight. The codicil was properly filed. The video testament supports it. And this flash drive, your husband documented everything. Every time Vanessa visited, every conversation about the house. He even has recordings. Recordings? I asked. Voice memos on his phone, apparently. He saved them all to the drive. They're time-stamped and geotagged. I'm listening to one from Thanksgiving 2018. Vanessa is explaining to Robert why the house should go to David, not be split with Jessica. She actually says, and I quote, "Jessica doesn't need it. She makes good money. We need the equity." Jessica's face went hard. That calculating language, Patricia said, but she was grinning. Let's file a motion to void the deed transfer and enforce the codicil. We'll get your house back, Helen. The legal battle took 4 months. David and Vanessa fought it, hired an expensive law firm, but Robert's documentation was perfect. Every T crossed, every I dotted. The judge, a woman in her 60s, who reminded me of my sister, read through everything with increasing sympathy. "Mrs. Morrison," she said at the final hearing, "I've reviewed your late husband's codicil, his video testament, and the circumstances of the deed transfer. I find that the transfer was obtained through misrepresentation and exploitation of your trust. Furthermore, the codicil is clear and binding. I'm voiding the deed transfer and restoring full ownership of the property to you." David was sitting behind Vanessa's lawyers. He looked smaller somehow, defeated. When the judge's gavel fell, he stood up and walked out. Didn't even look at me. But Vanessa did. She stared at me with such cold fury that I actually shivered. "This isn't over," she said. Patricia stepped between us. "Yes, it is. And if you contact my client again, I'll file for a restraining order." Getting my house back felt surreal. The new owners had been sympathetic, backed out of the purchase when they learned about the legal issues. I walked through my front door on a rainy Tuesday in March, exactly 1 year after I'd signed it away, and collapsed on the floor in the entryway, sobbing. Jessica found me there, helped me to the couch. "You did it, Mom. Dad did it. You're home." I nodded, unable to speak. David called 2 weeks later. I almost didn't answer, but Jessica convinced me. "He's still your son," she said. "Mom?" His voice was small. "I'm sorry." "Okay. I mean it. I let Vanessa convince me that it was fine, that you'd be better off in assisted living anyway, that we were doing the right thing. I was wrong. I was so wrong." "Yes, you were. Vanessa and I are getting divorced. She's furious about losing the house money. She said some things. I finally saw what Jessica had been trying to tell me, what Dad must have seen. I'm sorry I didn't listen to him. I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I wanted to hang up. Part of me wanted to hurt him the way he'd hurt me, but I heard Robert's voice in my head from the video. David's a good boy. Just weak sometimes. He'll need his mother, even if he doesn't deserve her. I forgive you," I said, and meant it. "But David, I can't have you in my life the way you were. Not right now. Maybe not for a long time. I understand. I need you to know what you did to me. I lived in a motel for 3 months. I thought I was losing my mind." My own son made me doubt my own sanity. He was crying now. I could hear it. "I know. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me those months back. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you chose your wife over your mother. I know. I want you to know I'm here. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. We talk now, sometimes. Once a month, maybe. Brief conversations, careful and polite. He's living in a studio apartment in Renton, paying Vanessa alimony. I don't ask about his life. He doesn't ask about mine. We're rebuilding, slowly, but it'll never be what it was. Some things, once broken, don't go back together the same way. Jessica visits every other weekend now. She helped me plant new roses in Robert's garden, the kind he always wanted but never got around to buying. We sit on the back porch and drink wine and talk about everything except David. I found a grief counselor, finally started processing Robert's death properly. Turns out I'd been holding on to it, frozen in that moment of loss. Losing the house forced me to lose him all over again, but also forced me to actually grieve. Strange how that works. The house feels different now, quieter. But it's mine, legally, morally, completely mine. Robert made sure of that, loved me enough to see what I couldn't, to protect me from my own generous heart. I go down to his workshop sometimes, sit on his workbench, talk to him. I tell him about the garden, about Jessica's promotion, about David's careful attempts at reconciliation. I thank him for the codicil, for the video, for loving me so fiercely that death couldn't stop him. I'm 69 now. I've learned that family doesn't always mean safety. I've learned that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to fully repair. I've learned that I'm stronger than I thought, that I can survive losing everything and still find my way home. But mostly, I've learned this. Love isn't just the warm moments, the easy times, the Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings. Real love is what Robert did. Real love is anticipating the worst and preparing for it anyway, even when you hope you're wrong. Real love is leaving your wife a roadmap back home, just in case she gets lost. I found that roadmap. I followed it home. And now, every morning when I wake up in my own bed, in my own house, I whisper the same thing. Thank you, Robert. Thank you for making sure I'd be okay. Because I am okay. Finally, truly, I am.